And we're ready whenever you are, Mayor.
Thank you, Kathy. Good evening, and thank you for attending tonight's City Council meeting. For those who are attending remotely, the camera in council chambers is set up to show those attending in person tonight. The platform we are using has a raise hand feature. You will notice a picture of a hand in the upper right-hand corner. When we reach the point in the meeting where the public has the opportunity to address council, that button to be given your opportunity to address council. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Tulley?
Here.
Councilor Selly?
Here.
Councilor Powers?
Here.
Councilor Scamperly? Councilor Stevenson? Here. Councilor Trim? Councilor Weaver?
Here.
Quorum present.
Councilor Scamperly is away on a family trip tonight, so he's asked to be excused. Is a consensus council to do that?
Yes.
And we are anticipating Councilor Trim's attendance tonight. Before we start with our presentations tonight, I want to make reference to this very nice display here, these flowers that were dropped off to council chambers this afternoon at 4 o'clock by Amelia Lesperance, Julia Bond, and Mariah Stull, who are members of the Ogdensburg Youth Garden Club, 323 Washington Street, Ogdensburg. So we certainly appreciate the club thinking of the city council and making us this nice gift and sort of brighten up our days this afternoon. So thank you to the Youth Garden Club and to Amelia, Julia, and Mariah. With that, we have two presentations tonight, and we'll begin with the Ogdensburg Garden Club presentation of Maple Leaf Awards. At this point, I'll invite Lynn Griffith to come up and take the lead on this.
We love our youth gardeners. I'd like to begin this evening with some thank yous. Thank you to you, Mayor, Council, and City Manager for inviting us to be here tonight to present these awards. We've been doing this for almost 30 years and have ended up passing out probably over 100 awards in the city since we've started. Another thank you to the city for the many years of various kinds of support to the Ogdensburg Garden Club, both monetary and in kind, and particularly of late to the DPW, who hangs those hanging baskets, waters, maintains them, takes them down again for us every year. We literally don't know what we'd do if that wasn't possible. Another thank you to the many businesses, civic organizations, and individuals in this city who over the years that we've been doing this have shown us many beautiful spots that we can take pride in and look at in this city. One more thank you to my fellow gardeners, members of the Garden Club, and those of the public that aren't members but are gardeners, for all that you do. It's very rewarding work. And before we go on to the awards, I have two things. One is I have to tell you that next year in 2025, the Ogdensburg Garden Club will be celebrating its 100th anniversary. So expect us to be doing some celebrating and we will let you know what's up. And then before I turn this over to Luann Herzog, who is the chairperson of our Maple Leaf Awards Committee, I have kind of a disclaimer or perhaps an apology. You know the saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words? Well, when the picture is a photograph and I'm the photographer, they might be worth maybe 200. I am not the world's best, but I tried. I invite you to take a look at the pictures of the gardens and better yet, try to drive by and see the real thing. With that, I'll give you Luann to do the presentation.
I was a teacher for 30-some years and I had to talk loud. As Lynn said, I'm Luann Herzog and I'm chairperson of the committee. She's the garden. the Maple Leaf Award. On my committee is Fran Macromato and Pam Lunkey and Patty. Did I get all of them? Patty Lunkey, Pam, and Fran. Okay, let's see here. And let me just say that the citizens of Ogdensburg made our selection very, very difficult this year. I think that the whole community has stepped up as far as keeping their properties up and trying to make the town of Ogdensburg, the city of Ogdensburg more beautiful. And we've had more nominations this year than we've ever had in the history of presenting these awards. And I highly recommend that everybody drive around town and view these gardens because, as Lynn said, you can't tell from the pictures how absolutely gorgeous these yards are. So drive around town and just look at them. I tell you, it was a very enjoyable experience to drive just around town and look and see how well people are maintaining their yards. You can see that people are taking pride in their community, and that's a good thing. It makes Ogdensburg a great place to live and raise children. Our first Maple Leaf Award winner is Champagne Street, and it's picture perfect, even down to the white picket fence. It's gorgeous. Jerry has many colorful perennials, very tastefully put together. She has a combination of deep wines and purples accented with yellow. She has the most beautiful purple opinion that I've ever seen. And they're hard to grow, besides and so, congratulations, Jerry, and keep up the good work. Oops, here's your award. And the maple leaves are a little different this year. As you can see, they're usually done in plexiglass, but yeah, this year. So, but I think these are nice. You look good. Next is Ann Lestrade. Ann Lestrade was she has a beautiful English cottage garden, which is my favorite kind of garden, but I'm not enough of a gardener to be able to grow one. She is a true gardener. She has a wide variety of perennials that cover her entire front yard. It's if you've never been by there, please drive by. You're going to have a lot of traffic in your neighborhood. She has a wide variety of perennials, and she has some plants that I've never even heard of before. Such as Queen of the Prairie, which she even gave me a couple, and it wasn't fun. Unfortunately, Ann's had a terrible section of her yard in order to eradicate that pesky goutweed, which has afflicted many gardens around the city. I see people nodding their heads like, oh yeah, you know, where you have to take everything out to get rid of it, and it takes a couple of years. It's terrible, terrible stuff. But she has it under control now, and soon the garden will be back to its true beauty. Thank you, Ann, for all the work you do making the city of Ogdensburg more beautiful. Award. Thank you. Thank you. And last but not least, we have Cheryl Ladisser. Cheryl's house is at 419 John Street. Beautiful yard. Cheryl maintains her yard on her own, and it's meticulous. We doesn't grow in her yard. No, it doesn't. But it doesn't spend long with it, doesn't. She has a variety of plants in a variety of colors, and everything's tastefully arranged with beautiful garden accents, which highlight the beautiful architecture of her home. It's It's another place that's just beautiful to see. And so here's Cheryl. Your Naval League Award and display it proudly. And congratulations. Yes. Oh, well, no, thank you. Believe me, it's a pleasure to do this kind of thing. I want to congratulate all three of this year's winners, and hopefully next year's will be another banner year for the Garden Club's Naval Awards. We'll have even more nominations of individuals who are trying to make Ogdensburg a more beautiful place to live. And like I said, driving around, seeing these places, it's not just the winners tonight. There were tons of places that were nominated that are, you know, beautiful too. And we just had to come up with three that we really felt represented the award. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Oh, Babalu makes the award. Yeah, he does that for us, and yeah, he does a wonderful job.
Thank you, Luann. And on behalf of City Council, but more importantly, on behalf of the citizens of Ogdensburg, thanks to all the citizens who are stepping up to try to make our city as beautiful as it can be in their homes through the works in developing their gardens. I want to congratulate Jerry and Ann and Cheryl on being recognized tonight. And I want to express my thanks to the Ogdensburg Garden Club for continuing contribution to the city and the work that you do in helping promote this valuable service in encouraging our citizens to make the city as beautiful as it can be. So hopefully some of these pictures can appear on our city's Facebook page, maybe to help promote them and recognize all the pictures that are there, but as well as our award winners. And again, congratulations. We have two presentations. The second presentation, sorry, tonight is from the Director of Planning and Development, Andrea Smith, regarding a lead service line survey.
Thank you, Mayor. My presentation is not quite as colorful or nearly, I think, as exciting, but very important nonetheless. For those of you that are attending in person, your agenda has a copy of the slides I will be speaking to this evening. And for those that are attending remotely, the slide presentation is included with the agenda, which is available on the city's website. The US EPA has mandated that all municipalities conduct an inventory of lead within our water distribution systems, and that we complete this inventory on or before October 16th, 2024. In an effort to do that, we have received funding through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Program, which has provided the city of Ogdensburg with the maximum grant of $2 million to help fund this effort that we are undertaking now. Again, this is an effort to identify where we may have lead in our water distribution system so that we can submit that to the federal government and ultimately work towards removing lead in our systems. So lead gets into drinking water in multiple ways, and for those of you attending online, this is slide 2, which is an illustration of the various ways that lead may enter your drinking water. The first is through the actual lead pipes that are in the ground. There's various connections that are connecting the city's water filtration plant all the way to your tap. And at many points along their way, there are opportunities for there to be lead connections or lead pipes. And so again, this is an effort that we are undertaking to identify where in the system we have lead, and there are certain aspects in which we are asking for the public's assistance. Why is this important? The dangers of lead are widely talked about, and I think known. They affect children, infants, pregnant women, and adults in general. Young children and infants are particularly vulnerable to the effects of lead. including physical behavioral effects that can occur, hyperactivity, lower IQ, hearing deficiencies, and anemia, just to name a few. In pregnant women, exposure to lead can lead to low birth rates and premature birth. And in the general adult population, exposure to lead can have adverse impacts, including cardiovascular effects, increased blood pressure, decreased kidney function, and reproductive issues for both men and women. So fairly serious impacts. Certainly not here to give you a public health overview on the impacts of lead, but that's just a high level overview of why it is important to identify where we have it, again, to make efforts to remove it in the long term. So you all will be receiving, if you have not already, a mailer from the city of Ogdensburg on how to help us determine whether there is lead or the potential for lead in your water service. We will be asking residents who are able to conduct a scratch method in which you identify where your water service comes into your home. Oftentimes that's in the basement or crawl space. Not everyone, we acknowledge, will be able to identify their water service or be physically able to conduct the scratch test method. And the surveys that are being mailed to you have an area for you to complete so that we can provide you with assistance. So if you are unable to conduct the scratch test on your own, please do fill out the form, and then we will schedule with you the appropriate time and day of the week so that we can safely assist you in conducting the scratch test method. So this slide, for those of you attending remotely, indicates or illustrates what a typical intake looks like. Again, you would find this in your basement or your crawl space. The image here is provided by the EPA, and it does include a water meter, which most residential services here in the city won't have a water meter, but this generally is what you'll be looking for. So look for that in your basement or your crawl space. This slide also illustrates what you'll need to conduct the scratch test, which is something to physically scratch the water service with, something like a key or a penny. And then also bring with you a magnet of some sort. You can simply take something off of your refrigerator, and then you'll be using that again to help in the determination of whether or not we have lead in the system. If when you conduct that scratch test, the piping, the metal appears yellowish or kind of the same color as a penny, that is indicative that it is copper. You can complete that on the form. There's a box for you to check that it appears to be copper. You can take a photo and you can send that back to us here in hard copy to the engineering office here at City Hall, 330 Ford Street, room 6, or you can send it via email, and we have an email address dedicated to this effort, which is the acronym for Lead Service Inventory, lsri@ogdensburg.org. There are instructions for that on the mailer that you'll get. If the pipe appears to be gray or silvery in nature, that may be lead. So again, you can fill that out appropriately. It would not be magnetic. In some instances, there are connections that are galvanized. Those would be magnetic in nature, and we would ask for you to note that as such. So again, just to reiterate, you will all be receiving a mailer if you have not already, and that mailer will provide specific instructions that we kind of outlined at a very high level this evening on how to conduct a scratch test to help us identify where we may have lead in our system. And there are instructions for how to return that to us. You can submit it again in hard copy in the US mail, or by bringing it to City Hall to the engineering offices, or you can fill it out, scan it back in, email it to lslr@ogdensburg.org. And there's also a fillable PDF, which is available on our website through the engineering department. So if that's easier for you to get there and fill it out online, you can also do that. So we hope that most of our residents, we hope that all of you will help in assisting us to determine where we have lead in our system so that we can get our inventory complete and submitted to the EPA in accordance with the October deadline.
Any questions or comments from council?
Andrea, just one comment. I had some people not probably, find all the directions or didn't realize the PDF fillable form. If they use that, they can send a digital photo. They don't have to print it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought so. I just wanted to double check. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Kathy, just a quick note. I'm being notified that audio is working, but video is not in our transmission tonight.
Okay, I'll check it.
We do not have any public hearings tonight, so that brings us to personal appearance. At this time, if anyone attending in person would like to address council, please come down to the podium and you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. I don't have flowers I can talk about. It would be a nice topic if I did, but my name is Sam Burns. I live at 423 Berry Street here in Ogdensburg. My topic is about brush piles. And I'll read this through because I don't want to miss anything or misspeak. On July 20th, 2024, I received a notice of violation ordered to remedy from the City of Ogdensburg Office of Code Enforcement. The date on the letter was 7/17/2024. It states the situation must be corrected by 7/23/24, 3 days later from when I received the letter. This is from my property at 722 Washington Street. On the same date, I received another letter from the Office of Code Enforcement sent on 7/18/24 from my property at 423 Berry Street, demanding that that situation be corrected by 7/25. This gave me a little bit more time to clean up, but the schedule for the old landfill, and those of you that have been around for a while know where I mean, is 8 a.m. to 3. The city landfill is not impossible for more if they do off from work or lose wages. No matter how you look at it, it costs city taxpayers an additional charge on top of the $50 or more for the landfill. I submitted a letter to North Country Now on Wednesday night, July 23rd, regarding this issue. It was printed on Thursday, July 24th. I contacted one of my sons and asked if he would park a trailer in my yard by Friday morning, July 26th. So I would have the pile picked up before the close of business on the 26th. I received a call from my son at work around 11 a.m. on that Friday, the 26th, informing me that the pile had already been picked up. Now, I know payback when I smell it, and I'm getting tired of the harassment from code enforcement in DPW. The DPW building is on Outer Patterson Street, and they skipped 3 other city streets to come down Knox Street and pick up my pile early in the morning. What causes me to be more upset is the fact that 1 street over, closer to DPW, J Street, there was a much larger pile of brush on a city paper street that was never picked up until August 5th. I guess it's a case of do as I say, not as I do. When I called code enforcement office on 7/29/24, I was told that the DPW determines the cost of their workers to pick up the brush pile, and it would take about a week to know how much. I was also informed that I could have called that office to request an extension to clean it up myself. However, nowhere in the original notice does it say that. When I called DPW, I was informed that the code office would mail out the cost in about a week. Well, we're past a week, and I still don't know how much I will pay and what effect this might have on my escrow. There has been more windstorms this summer than usual. I spent hours picking up fallen branches from the 15 trees. As of last Friday, there's now 14 on my property before I can cut the grass. A professional landscaper has informed me that the best 2 months to trim any brush or trees is during the month of July and August. So much for science. The point is, the letter to city taxpayers by a department of the city is threatening, rude, and degrading to the taxpayers that pay their salary and does not offer a reasonable time to correct the situation. With all the other issues city government is contending with, lead and water lines, homeless people all over the city, drug use in all parts of our community, and the problems our law enforcement personnel have to deal with as a result of that. Lack of housing, lack of tax-paying population. So why is the city staff spending so much time harassing those of us still here? I do the best I can to make my property presentable to visitors, and I will ensure that I don't have a brush pile on my property. However, in my area of the city, there are no street curbs and very few sidewalks. Maybe it's time for those of us getting harassed that we stop cutting the grass on the city right away. I do have a question to be answered by someone from the city. Whose idea was this? And why change something that worked for years? If for financial reasons, maybe the department changes are in order. As of today, there are still brush piles all over town, many on city paper streets. This is not the first time the Office of City Code Enforcement has harassed me and cost me money, but it will be the last. There's nothing that ties me to live within the city of Ogdensburg. Too many other friends of mine here voting with their feet, and it seems some more of us will follow. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Wendy Hamilton. I live here in the city. Over the last few months, I have been listening to residents and I've been attending the meetings. And I think there's two things missing, and I'd just like to make a couple of suggestions. One is information. The website, as we all know, is difficult sometimes to navigate, and information doesn't necessarily go to everybody in the same way. Everybody has their favorite way of getting their information, and mostly it's in a passive way. People don't necessarily actively seek out information. But I would like to suggest that maybe we collaboratively think of other ways that we get information out to residents. And one might be where maybe there's a once a month open house meeting that a counselor could be present for, where citizens could come and ask questions, where maybe a roundup of what the important issues were this month, something where we're making our council open to the citizens to then go and seek information. The other thing is the information itself. I don't think that the average citizen knows how city council and the city works. What does the Department of Public Works actually do? And I think it would be very instructive, and it might be even part of Mr. Cronus's orientation, to provide the citizens with an insight into each department. Maybe feature one once a month or every other council meeting, whatever is doable. But I think that would give citizens more information about how their tax dollars being spent, what the departments do. We could start with DPW. That seems to be at the top of everyone's list right now, and maybe then go on to code enforcement. How does code enforcement work in the city? How does it get reported? Who is it? The police that go out? Is it just the two folks in code enforcement? Is it the fire department? Who notifies the city of something that needs to be enforced? So I think that if you can start giving that information back to the citizens and help them understand, there'll be not necessarily happier residents, but at least more informed residents. I, for one, would love to have that kind of insight into city government. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
I have a very loud voice. Bruce Klein. I was born and raised here. Kathy, if you're wondering who the guy is from South Carolina that's watching all the videos or signed into the meeting, I'm Chief Klein at lishfd.org. Mayor, members of council, first I want to say welcome aboard. Again, I'm not a resident. I watch from 1,000 miles away. Andrea, I think you did a fantastic job in a very tough time as the interim. Kathy, I think, does a fantastic job. I just wanted to say to you that the decorum, the professionalism, and the actions of council are 110% better than they were. You treat the citizens properly, and Mayor, you do a great job of running the meeting. It was embarrassing to be from Augsburg in the prior council years. So congratulations, you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time. You will have 5 minutes.
The first individual is registered as Greg McNamara, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just wanted to call in. I felt bad for the fella who had his brush hauled away, and he's worried about being charged by the city or whatnot. There's brush on my street and piles, like he stated, all over the place. If the DPW wanted to haul it away or the codes wanted to have it hauled away, he shouldn't be charged at all. That's ridiculous because they'd have to do it to everybody, and that's not what they're doing. They can't pick and choose. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
I do not see any other hands raised, Mayor.
Brings us to correspondence. We have any correspondence tonight?
We do not.
Brings us to our consent agenda. That the claims as enumerated in General Fund Warrant 15-2024 in the amount of $1,077,635.55, and Library Warrant number 15-2024 in the amount of $0, and Capital Fund Warrant number 15-2024 in the amount of $51,652.35, and Community Development Fund Warrant number 15-2024 in the amount of $75.98, and Community Renewal Fund Warrant number 15-2024 in the amount of $0 as audited be and the same hereby are ordered paid. I so move.
Second.
Any questions? Kathy, please call the roll.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Trim, Counselor Weaver,
Yes.
approved.
Next, under appointments, I make a motion to appoint Beth Madlin, Joanne Garreau, Connie Jenkins, Dale Sheldon, Michael Roach, Bobby Ray Leonard, and Jennifer Shaver to the Historic Preservation Commission, terms to begin August 12th, 2024. I so move.
Second.
Questions or comment? Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Trim,
Yes.
Counselor Weaver,
Yes.
Mayor Tully,
Yes.
approved.
Our only item of business tonight, we read by Director of Planning and Development, Andrea Smith.
This is a resolution, it's an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a license agreement to operate the Dubisky Visitor Center concession area to the Dirty Gringo.
This item was tabled at the July 22nd, 2024 meeting. Does any member of council wish to make a motion to take this item off the table?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Kathy, please call the roll.
Mayor, we have to do a roll call to take it off the table and then ask for any discussion. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Trim,
Yes.
Counselor Weaver,
Yes.
Mayor Tully,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
approved.
All right, now is there any discussion on the resolution itself? Hearing none, Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Trim,
Yes.
Counselor Weaver,
Yes.
Mayor Tully,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
approved.
Brings us to old business. Does anyone have any old business tonight?
Your Honor, I have one item. Back at our March 28th meeting, I believe it was, we had a resident that asked about water and sewer rates for at-home businesses and businesses. And we have researched that with the help of city staff to determine how we could handle that. And it was decided to leave the code as it is now. But we were going to do some efforts to find people that were not aware that they should be paying these fees, and maybe people that were just not paying the fees. I just would like to get an update as to where we stand with that, because it still is an issue for a number of our small business owners in the city. They're still concerned about not getting that information and not knowing what efforts have been made. So maybe not at this meeting, but I would like to, by our next meeting at the latest, have an update on that, please.
We'll have an update for you. It's definitely on the list to discuss.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Anyone else? Old business? That brings us to new business. Does anyone have any new business this evening? And that brings us to items for discussion. Does anyone have any items for discussion this evening?
Well, I guess I have one more. When someone opens a business in Ogdensburg, is there easy information for them to follow to know what to do? Should they go to code office? Where do they start with what they need to do to take an office place and maybe even make it retail, make it a professional office? And what do we do as a city to be proactive to make sure that when someone opens a business and maybe they weren't aware of the procedures, to help them and to make sure that, to let them know why these regulations are in place. They're in place to make people safe, to make sure all buildings that people are in, whether they're purchasing candy or they're purchasing clothing or whatever, that they make sure that they know that that building is safe for citizens to enter. That's why we have inspections. That's why we have codes that have to be followed. They have to be ADA compliant. So what efforts are made to make sure that businesses that maybe aren't aware of the requirements are being made of those? And what is the procedure if a business is found not to have filed a building permit or any permits to open that business? What do we do then? Do they continue to operate until a whole procedure is taken place? Because that kind of is counterproductive if it's for the safety of citizens or those people that are going into those entities. So again, I don't expect an answer this evening, but I would like to also have an update on that before our next city council meeting or at the next city council latest.
Will do.
Thank you.
I have a couple of items. One, first of all, City Historian Julie Madlin will be leading a walk along Caroline Street on Wednesday night to take a look at, with those accompanying her, historic buildings on Caroline Street. And so if anyone's interested in joining in that educational experience, the gathering will be at the library at 6 o'clock, and then Julie will lead us along Caroline Street so we can take a look at some of the historical structures on that street in the city.
What's the date on that, Dan?
This Wednesday. And then just a brief comment, my personal perspective with regards to our street debris issues. We're in year one of the new schedule, and I think at the end of the collection season this fall, I'm anticipating that staff will give us an update or a report, an analysis of what went well with it, what challenges might be, so that staff and council will consider whether the same ordinance, same penalties, et cetera, will be in place, same process in place for delivery of notices, or whether they might consider some modifications with that. I know, speaking from personal experience, for whatever reason, mail travels more slowly now, hard mail. And I think that creates a challenge for our citizens in dealing with the notice requirements and the timelines that are in the ordinance to deal with this. So that's just an example of one area that needs to be re-examined, I think. But in any event, I would anticipate, again, let's get through the collection season this fall, and then either late this year or maybe beginning of next year, we have a report from staff with regards to, again, any thoughts about modifications, either the ordinance itself and or the process by which it's enforced.
Your Honor, may I comment on that also?
Please.
When we asked for that report from DPW and other departments they may have interacted, I'd also like to understand what they believe they were also able to accomplish with saving that time that they didn't complete it. Because many people don't realize the number of hours it takes to pick up the entire city. That's part of why the council made that decision, was that we didn't have the manpower in the past, and how many weeks it actually took up to do that middle brush pickup. So I'd like to have an idea, just an estimate of maybe how many extra blocks of paving got done, how many more sidewalks got done, what got done while they were still covering for recreation, so we can understand the balance of the decision that we made. Thank you.
Anyone else on council? So that brings us to citizen participation. At this time, if anyone attending in person would like to address council, please come down to the podium and you will have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name's Tanya Snyder. I live at 513 John Street. I sent in a FOIL request July 16th on a building on Ford Street that is running a business to ask if they had met all the necessary permits, inspections, ADA, everything. And every FOIL request that I got back, they had not met anything. They have not had an inspection. They have been running business for over a month. They don't have any water. They're paying the minimal amount of water of, what is it, $56.25? How is this business running when I brought it to the city? And honestly, is this a code situation? Because to me, when I send in something in that day that I send in for a FOIL request, how ironic, they got a permit. So are they dealing like, let's make a deal here at Code Enforcement? Because seriously, I've heard other things about permits, that somebody goes in there for a $25,000 permit and walks out with a 19.5. You know what? Everything needs to become fair. And if this job of code enforcement is too much for the individuals in there, they need to be gone. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else in chambers? Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time, and you will have 2 minutes.
The first individual is registered as Greg McNamara, and I will unmute that individual now. Here's your line is open, sir.
Hi, I would just like for Ms. Stevenson to describe businesses, and she asked she'd like to see a list herself, but who are you guys trying to go after? The little guy? Anyone? If someone has a grass trimming business or anything in this city, you're trying to get a little more tax money out of? I don't get this at all. And with how high taxes are right now, you're doing nothing but pushing people out of the city of Augsburg. They're sky high. This place sucks to live. There's drug addicts. There's meth heads. You call the cops, they don't do a fucking thing because they can't, because this place is useless. No, wait, Mr. Cooley, it's sad, but what I'm saying is the truth, sir. So if you're a God-fearing man, you'll let me talk. It's really bad. This place, you drive down 4th Street, and it's like an audition for The Walking Dead. It's pathetic. And the judges here, there was just a scam on the news today. A guy robbed some old lady, some guy from out of town with some internet scam or something for 50 grand, and then did it the next day for 70, and they arrested him, and the judge let him go. These we got here in Augsburg Court are pathetic. They're Democrat, panty waist judges that need to go. Put people in jail, lock people up. This place is a shithole because of the Democrats, just like the rest of New York State. Thank you.
Anyone else, Kathy?
I do not see any other hands raised, Mayor.
At this point, I will introduce a resolution to adjourn to executive session. Whereas the mayor requests an executive session with members of the Augsburg City Council in executive session to discuss matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. And whereas New York State open meetings law permits city council to adjourn to executive session for such purpose. Now therefore be it resolved that city council adjourn to executive session to discuss matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. And be it further resolved that any action resulting from this executive session shall be taken in open session. I so move. Second. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Trim?
Yes.
Counselor Weaver?
Yes.
Mayor Tooley?
Yes.
Counselor Silly?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson?
Yes.
Approved.
We do not anticipate any action, so I will make a motion to adjourn from executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Mayor, one moment. I would like,
Yeah, yes, let's note that for the record, Kathy. Thank you.